Welcome to the Grand Prix 24/7 podcast, your weekly insight into the world of Formula One. Hello and welcome to the Grand Prix 24/7 podcast. I'm joined by Paul to review what was a fascinating and incredibly exciting Turkish Grand Prix at Istanbul Park. Lewis Hamilton won in dramatic circumstances in some treacherous conditions to seal his 7th world title. Paul, what's your initial reaction to all that happened in that crazy race?
Well, yeah, Turkish Grand Prix. I mean, we knew we were in for something very, very special. We didn't think we were going to get something as epic as this. All I can say is, first off, is Lewis Hamilton. We knew he was going to do the title thing. He was going to win it. But what a way to go. I mean, just to do it in such style. He's just proven why he is the best driver in the world. And I think the nail in the coffin in terms of anyone doubting his greatness is how he trounced Valtteri Bottas on a day that the Finn, who supposedly comes from Finland where it's always wet and icy, was just atrocious. And Lewis, despite very few laps, if you think about it in practice and even in qualifying, you know, the guy wasn't into the weekend, but he got going, and you felt by a certain point in the race he was just going to be unbeatable. And then he did the unthinkable, actually. To me, it was the unthinkable at a certain stage of the race. He won it. I mean, it's fairy tale, it's everything. Basically, today we saw greatness and why greatness should be applauded, because he did not have the best car, he did not have the best grip, but he tailored a win out of it.
52 laps on that set of intermediates. It's just ridiculous, you know. I think that we were looking with about 30 laps to go, and you're wondering kind of what's the strategy option here. There was no obvious choice because people were putting on new intermediates as they were graining. Hamilton was feeling that there was no chance that the slicks would become an option. Yet, at that point, there's no way that you thought that someone could take a pair of intermediates that he put on lap 6 all the way to the end. Valtteri Bottas, the only cars that he beat this week were a Haas, a Williams, and an Alfa Romeo. Mercedes hasn't been the quickest all weekend. They've struggled. They were 6th and 9th on the grid in qualifying. Yeah, Hamilton on race day, when the grip is difficult to come by, he can find it. He can keep his car on the road. He can go at an incredible speed for such a long distance. And you know, Max Verstappen had the chance to win today. Lance Stroll had the chance to win today. Alex Albon had the chance to win today. And it shows that his greatness isn't just about having the best car. It's about being a driver who, whatever the conditions, whatever the opposition, he can, you know, invariably find a way to win.
The conditions today were a great leveler. Okay, the wet weather is always that, plus the slippery track, plus the unknown. They hadn't been there for 10 years, and it was and these cars are the most potent, powerful cars around. And to go there and to actually do what he did to Valtteri Bottas, relative to what, for instance, Seb did to Charles. I think Seb got the better of Charles today. And even Alex. I don't think Alex Albon was totally outdriven by Max. He made mistakes in that. But in terms of pace, you know, there was a time when Albon was hanging on. Max, as you said, I think he was his own worst enemy. But he is that. It's superhero or super zero with Max. And today was a supreme example. I think he got annoyed that he didn't get pole yesterday, and I think he took it too hard on the team. You know, that whole dramatics of him standing by the dustbin and crouched down and feeling all sorry for himself. Cool, but, you know, Red Bull don't deserve that. This is a team who delivers world record pit stops week in and week out, and Max moaned because he didn't get pole. He should have forgotten about that, put it behind him, because this race was Max's to win. I'm sure if he had kept his head and the real Max came to the party and he wasn't so impatient and he had more than one chance to bring it back and he fluffed them all. So I think Max is still one of the best rain drivers. I think today he let this one slip. And of course, history will show it was Lewis who was there to grab the pieces. And interestingly, if I may just say in conclusion with the podium, you know, Sergio was on the podium, Seb were on the podium, and Lewis was on the podium. That's old school. And for me, that's pretty cool that these old school guys can still actually show the boys that experience is important. And I think that's what we saw today, is the experience resulted in the cream coming to the top.
I think that was a great podium to see at this race. I think that Perez and Vettel are, as you say, they've been around for, well, in Perez's case 9 years, in Vettel's case he's been actually did his first test in a Formula One car before even Hamilton did, and the two guys I feel that have Hamilton has a great amount of respect for and have a great amount of respect for him as well. But no, I thought Perez was exceptional all race. You know, I think as the race kind of wore on, it was clear that the Racing Point didn't have the speed of the Ferrari, the Red Bull, or the Mercedes. But he just did a brilliant job. Classic Sergio with the tyre management, and held on to that second place, which was very well deserved when his teammate Lance Stroll just went backwards.
That was a strange, it was an awesome race, let's be honest. And I'll tell you what, I was really impressed with Stroll at the beginning. When things were right and things were good, he was just bomb. He was on it, and he looked really, really impressive. But when things started to go wrong for him, and he started to question, and he didn't know, and you could hear in his voice it getting from being super, super calm and impressive in the first stanza of the race for him, he just disintegrated, which comes to that that thing that I have about Lance. I think he's a fantastic, fantastic driver, but everything has to be perfect for him. And at one stage in the race, things were perfect, and he was showing good pace, but then afterwards, he lost it. And that's when a guy like Sergio just did not lose it, and he just kept going, and he's soldiered on. So that's the problem with Lance. I think when things are good, he's super, but when things are not that good, he's mediocre.
Yeah, I think it really showed the value of tyre management. Lance, when the tyres were in the window and when he didn't have the issues with the graining and the overheating, he was doing a great job. But that skill that is so crucial in this current formula and with these current Pirelli tyres, it is absolutely vital. And Hamilton has that, and Sergio Perez is another person who has that, and that is the difference. That's what sometimes Valtteri Bottas is rapid. He's always up there with Hamilton in qualifying. But when it comes to that tyre management, he just can't do the job. And that is, I don't think people quite understand how important that tyre management is in this current formula with the Pirelli tyres. And Sergio's got that, and that's why he's fourth in the championship despite missing 2 races and being in a Racing Point car that's been a bit inconsistent. That's why he's finished in the points every single race that he started this season.
Exactly, and Sergio hasn't got a drive next year, which is a total travesty. And, but this is no surprise. Sergio is a veteran of this. I'll never forget the 2012 Malaysian Grand Prix when he went hammer and tongs with Alonso. I think he finished second that day to Fernando. That's when the real Sergio Perez sort of just made his mark. You're talking like 8 years ago. And he hasn't changed since then. He's always been a very good driver under attrition. And today he proved it. It's a travesty that he might be without a seat next year.
If I was Red Bull, you can't really look past what a brilliant job Sergio did today. But I agree with you in terms of Alex Albon. There was one point where I really thought that he had a great chance of winning. We were all talking in the back channel about Albon being on the right tyre at the right time, having the pace advantage over the 2 Racing Points. And, while things did unravel for him, I thought he did give it a good go. And it was clearly difficult to overtake out there without the DRS. But no, I was pretty impressed with Albon, and I'm confident that put him back in that AlphaTauri away from the ridiculous level that Max Verstappen produces, and I think he'll do well.
Yeah, and then I think that would leave a door open for a guy like Sergio to go there. Someone just to calm things down in the house. I mean, you've got a guy who's on a tension hook all the time, and that's Max. He's ready to just go for it. And then you need a guy to bring stability and just to bring in the results. And if you want a guy to bring in the results, you've got to go and knock on Sergio's door,
I don't think Sergio cares if he's half a second down on him in qualifying, because he's got such confidence in his race pace that's not going to affect him, that's not going to put him under pressure. He just does things his own way. I think Andy Green, who gave an interview about him, says that he always rigs his setup towards race pace, and I think that really showed today. And I think that he's the kind of driver who's got that kind of unflappable character who could handle being Max's teammate.
Agreed, but mate, let's be honest, it's all about Lewis, eh? I was so impressed. I just, I'm a Lewis fan through and through, because you have to be, because he's so fantastic. But the reality is that I did not think he was going to win this race. And I was watching with my mate Chuan, we were actually talking, and he said, watch Lewis win this one, and that'll be just the most amazing way to win the championship. And it's just, I just don't know what there's no words that can actually explain that what we're watching here. It's proper greatness. And the humiliation of Bottas, I mean, It's just unbelievable. But before we go, there's a couple of things I do want to mention to you in terms of the race. There was only one short VRC, and that's credit to the drivers. There was no safety car. You would have thought there'd be 5-6 safety cars in a situation like this. But you know what? The guys behaved. Of course, the usual suspects were on the sand. But just back to the Hamilton achievement. I mean, that's 10 victories this season. I actually see him going and breaking the World Championship record to 8 or 9. 10 is not even out of the question if next year, the next era of Formula One he fancies, because he's only 35, and I think today he showed why he gets the big bucks and why he just deserves every plaudit he gets.
Yeah, it's difficult to see how someone will stop this combination of Hamilton and Mercedes, especially in this current formula. Obviously, the key comes down really to the 2022 regulations. Does Hamilton want, the potential that at age 37, no longer in the dominant car, that, maybe things will start to get a bit harder for him? I still think that he'll be in with a shout, but, maybe he does want to be the guy who leaves when he's right on the top. He doesn't want to do a Schumacher and go kind of racing into his 40s and kind of not tarnishing his reputation. I don't think anyone thinks any less of Michael Schumacher because of those 3 years he spent at Mercedes. But, had Schumacher gone out like he did, then maybe it just adds a certain kind of like level of closure, and it wraps it up nicely, and he's gone out with the win record and everything. And I think Hamilton will be wary of going on too long, but at the same time, he absolutely loves it. He was talking about the way that he lives at the moment, and he said he might go home and have a bottle of wine. Nothing crazy. He says that he's just been staying in his bubble. He's not been doing his kind of usual globetrotting lifestyle. He's just absolutely focused on delivering the best he can every time he gets in the car. And I think that's the really admirable thing. People kind of a few seasons ago when he was, he skipped that Formula One event to go to America, people were kind of questioning whether this is his focus. But I don't think that there is any doubt that Formula One is his 100% primary focus. There is nothing that he cares about more, and anything he does outside of that is actually just his way of resetting and refocusing so that he can deliver the best on the track.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll just echo everything you said. I mean, the boxes are ticked. He just brings every time, you feel, okay, this is Lewis's zenith. No, he takes it to the next. So I would say it would be very premature for him to retire now, especially in this day and age where these cars are extremely fast, but they're not physically taxing that you need to be in 2022 to drive them. And I think on a day like today is a day that, apart from Sergio and Seb also being on that podium, and below them, the three superstars of the future, Leclerc, Sainz, Verstappen. There was so much poetry in this race, in the results, and the way Hamilton won it. It was it's a Turkish Grand Prix for the ages. It's Hamilton showing that he's the supreme, and then the old guard still saying, listen guys, we're still around here, don't write us off, and then the young guard snapping at their heels. And I think Lewis is as good, if not better, than all of them. I mean, as much as we want to compare Max to Lewis, as you mentioned when we were chatting earlier, Max is still in the stage Lewis was, almost 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So the reality is they are two different stages of their careers, and Lewis is not over. It's not over by a long means. I think next year he's going to win it again, and I don't think Mercedes or whatever emerges from this new rules package vis-a-vis Mercedes, I think Lewis will give himself another year or two there, and I don't see them producing a bad car. And even if it's a mediocre car, as Lewis proved today, in a Mercedes that just was not happy in the conditions, that the driver does still make the difference.
Yeah, Max actually reminds me quite a lot of McLaren era Hamilton, in the sense that he can just deliver these performances and these wins in not the best car that are just astoundingly good, and you just think, God, this guy's is just got it so under control, especially in these difficult conditions when it's wet or the grip is low. But then also just make these mistakes that not cost him, because Max never had a chance of winning this championship, and I'm not saying that. And there were years in Hamilton's McLaren years where he didn't have a chance of winning the championship either. But it's that kind of like that movement from absolutely brilliant to kind of frustrating and a bit average that reminds me quite a lot of Hamilton. I actually think that I've got lots of faith that Max is going to kind of stamp that out, and I think he'll 100% get to a similar level to Lewis's, where he's just kind of got no flaws in his game. Another thing with Max is obviously, when you don't have a championship to fight for, you are entitled to take more risks, because it's about getting race wins. There's no point Max, sitting behind Sergio Perez, and kind of sticking around for a third place. He doesn't care about that. What he wants is race wins. So I completely back Max's decision to go for it. He did very well to even hold that and stop it going in the wall. But I just see Max maturing slowly, and I think he'll reach a similar level to Lewis, because there are a lot of parallels between the way they drive. They're just, brilliantly quick, have natural kind of ability to just keep pounding in fast laps after fast laps in races. They don't have that kind of drop off like you see with someone like a Bottas. And then also the mastery of the difficult conditions. Think back to some of Lewis's fantastic wins in, Fuji 2007 in the wet, Silverstone 2008 in the wet, and Max, he's already had those kind of performances. So I just see Max continuing to improve, and once he gets in a car that can challenge for a title, God, we are gonna, long for the days where Hamilton was dominating, such as Max Verstappen's level of dominance in F1.
Yeah, well, end of the day, he's got a long way to go to find 7 world championships. He's young, but he better get going, really, because...
And he has a certain Charles Leclerc who's going to be battling.
And he also got a lot of other
with
guys
him as
there.
well.
Got a lot of other young guys there that are going to be in the fray too. So I'll tell you what, for now, it's just Lewis 7. It's unbelievable, really unbelievable.
Well said, Paul, and I think that will do us for today. We'll be back later in the week for a more in-depth dive into what was a race with so much going on that it's quite difficult to get your head around at this point, and that will probably include Ben as well. Thank you very much for listening, as always. Please do get in touch with the show at podcast@grandprix247.com on email. You can also get in contact with us via Facebook and Twitter at grandprix247, and in the comments section on our website, grandprix247.com. Until next time, bye-bye.